Good morning. We will continue our second day of our lesson 11, and Monday, March 8th, we will study the second topic, a downward course. How does Jesus explain what makes a person vulnerable to sin? The verse from John chapter 15 verse 5 says, "Apart from me, you can do nothing." So when we are not connected with Jesus, we can do nothing. In Romans 8 verse 5, it tells us, "Those who live according to the flesh have their minds set on what the flesh desires. But those who live according to the Spirit have their minds set on what the Spirit desires." So, when we are connected with Jesus, with God, we have our minds set on what the Spirit desires. But if we are not connected with God, we have what the flesh desires. And I found interesting at this second paragraph of the text, this sentence here that says, "The work of the enemy is not abrupt. It is not. At the outset, sudden and startling. It is a secret undermining of the strongholds of principle. It begins in apparently small things." So it's a very slow that we cannot even sometimes realize what is happening. That's why we need always to rely upon Him wholly, all the time. Question B. What complicated David's situation? The woman conceived and sent a word to David saying, "I am with a child." So she conceived, and now it complicated the situation. Explain why God could not prosper David's attempt to cover his sin. So now David wanted Uriah to go home and to sleep with his wife so he could cover his sin. But Uriah would not go home. He stayed out, sleeping at the door, but he would not go home. Even after David made him drunk, that he could go home and sleep with his wife, but even though Uriah stayed sleeping out, but did not go to his house. He did not prosper in his plans. David, he had betrayed himself into the power of Satan. Danger surrounded him. Dishonor more bitter than death was before him. And now question C. How did David feel when he was induced to add sin to sin? So now he planned to murder Uriah. He sent a word even to Uriah's hand. He sent a letter to Joab, asking Joab to set Uriah at the front battle, where the battle would be stronger, at the dangerous point of the war, so Uriah would be killed. And this was fulfilled. Joab set him at the front battle, where the battle would get fierce, and he was wounded and he died. So he induced sin to sin. He now added murder to adultery. And how did God feel about this? The verse says that the thing that David had done displeased the Lord. The Lord was not pleased. The Lord was not happy with the ways David were taking. In David, his bones wasted away. He related that on Psalms verse 32, 3 and 4, it says, "For day and night your hand was heavy on me." When David departed from God and stained his virtuous character by his crimes, he was no longer a man after God's own heart. So we know that David, he was a man after God's own heart, but at this moment when he stained his virtuous character by his crimes, he no longer was a man after God's own heart. May the Lord help us that we keep our connection with the true vine, with Jesus, that we can be always strong to face moments of trials, moments of temptations, and we can overcome, that we can have our minds set on things that are from the Spirit. May the Lord help us today and bless us, and tomorrow we will continue our Bible lessons. Until tomorrow then.